What is up, my fellow gamers out there? Let me show you something. Do you remember this? If you are smiling right now, this video is for you. And I don't even have to introduce what is this. Oh, the majestic Winamp or Winamp, how do you pronounce this? Let's call it Winamp throughout this video. And it's running on my lovely portable XP setup. And I don't know how about you, but probably if you are in your 40s or 30s and you had a PC in the 90s and in the 2000s, I'm quite sure that you had Winamp or you know someone who had Winamp. And this little fantastic music player had a absolutely huge journey. And my Winamp journey started back in 1997 when after I just was a junior in high school and I went into the house of my classmate who we've been just started to get friends. And I remember that he had a quite tiny room and he had a brand new PC, and he showed me this little icon, this the Winamp icon, this kind of flash or something. He started it and the little music player appeared on the screen and he loaded up an MP3, and I still remember this until this day. This memory is so strong. The first MP3 music which I was listening on Winamp was Outside World from Sunbeam. It's like a 90s trance kind of music, and when I straight away seen Winamp, I was like, oh, I really love it. I don't know how compact it is and how the equalizer is just dancing on the screen. I really love it. And the title of the song is just scrolling there, and I told my friend that I need it, and he gave me the installer and MP3 file, and I had one MP3 too. And I remember I was showing my parents that, oh, look how my PC can play music. And yeah, I know that in 1997 that was probably not really a new thing for a lot of people, but for me it was, because in 1997 I got my first PC. And also we made house parties later with Winamp. Yep, my friend who originally gave me the software itself, he was interested into being a DJ, and I don't know why he was not using like a proper like a DJ software, or because it was already available, he was using 2 Winamps. Yep, he started 2 Winamps, and he used basically just the volume as a kind of fader. He used on one Winamp the scroll wheel of the mouse, and on the other Winamp he used the arrow buttons to change the volume, and he made these kind of very primitive kind of mixing. And we took our huge CRT monitors to the house party, and I actually got a photo of myself. Look, check this out. Yep, that is me in a worn house what we used for house parties, and I'm sitting there behind the computer, and I was trying DJing as well, but I was not really into the DJing, I was more into the partying. And we used that, we hooked up the computer with the RCA cable to the HiFi system, and we just blasted the music and we pissed off the neighbors, and yeah, good times. And also Winamp was installed on my computer basically from 1997 to all of my computers and operating systems until the late 2010s, because I just loved it and I couldn't find any better alternative software for it. So yeah, I just loved it. And do you guys remember this? What happened when you clicked twice here? The famous MilkDrop plugin. And this little thing, it made beautiful visualizing effects. And sometimes I just remember I was in the middle of the night and I was sitting in the front of my computer listening to music, and I was just watching MilkDrop as it changed around this kind of really fascinating effects, and it was just fantastic. So yeah, so I remember the Winamp for I don't know, I was just remembered, oh yeah, I used to have Winamp. So I decided to create a video because even myself was interested, what's the history behind all this little software. So today we're going to talk about Winamp, and I would like to ask you to share all of your information, even information or memories what you had with Winamp, and if you remember what was your favorite skin to it, because we all remember that there was loads of skins. And actually there is a website dedicated to the historical like Winamp skins, like loads of Winamp skins there. So Winamp is definitely still living in old school PC, and yeah, also PC gamers mind, because it was always running when we are chatting on MSN Messenger. Winamp was running, and it was basically just we used it when we used the no, of course nobody used Napster and what was the other one, LimeWire, to acquire MP3s, and when you downloaded it you opened it with Winamp. So yeah, we love Winamp. Alright, and now let's see the history and how basically what was the story of Winamp. Let's get started. Winamp first appeared in 1997, created by a young programmer named Justin Frankel and his company Nullsoft. Originally it was a simple MP3 player for Windows, but it quickly became much more than that. The name itself came from a combining Windows and AMP, inspired by the popular Linux music player AMP. The timing couldn't have even better. MP3 files were beginning to explode in popularity. Internet connections were getting faster, CD burners were becoming affordable, and suddenly thousands of people were building digital music collections. Winamp became the software that tied everything together. Part of Winamp's success was how lightweight it was. It launched almost instantly, it barely used any memory. Even a modest Windows 98 computer could run it without breaking a sweat. But functionality wasn't the only reason people loved it, it had personality. One of the greatest features was its incredible skin support. Almost overnight, people began creating thousands of custom designs and put on their websites. Some looked futuristic, others looked like hippie stereo, some copied expensive audio equipment, some were completely ridiculous. Finding a cool new Winamp skin almost became a hobby by itself. Sometimes I remember I spent more time changing skins than actually listening to music, and when I had dial-up connection I went to websites when I could download these old and really cool skins, and I remember I collected them in a massive folder, and we were even exchanging with my friends, and it gave us so much more like a fun experience using Winamp. If skins were cool, plugins were even better. This is where Winamp really became something special. You could extend it almost endlessly. There was a crossfader plugin, internet radio, CD ripping, new audio formats, DSP effects, everything seemed possible. And then there was MilkDrop. If you ever stared at those endlessly morphing colorful patterns while music played, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Back then it looked absolutely mind-blowing. Sometimes we leave MilkDrop running for hours, almost like a digital lava lamp in the corner of our room. And of course, Winamp arrived during one of the most exciting periods in computer history, the MP3 revolution. This was the era of Napster, later LimeWire, Kazaa, Audio Galaxy. Suddenly people weren't buying individual songs anymore, they were discovering artists from all over the world, building huge music collections, creating playlists, organizing folders. Do you remember editing ID3 tags? Making the perfect mix for every occasion. Looking back, it wasn't always convenient. Downloads were slow, files were often mislabeled, sometimes the song wasn't even the right one, but finding a song felt like discovering buried treasure. Every successful download felt like an achievement on dial-up connection. Yeah, I remember downloading MP3 song was like, I don't know, 8-10 minutes. But nothing stays on top forever. In 1999, AOL purchased Nullsoft. For a while, Winamp continued to grow, adding more features and attracting millions of users. But then, the world began to change. Apple introduced the iPod, iTunes became increasingly popular, streaming services slowly replaced local music collections, people stopped organizing MP3 folders because their music simply lived online. By the early 2000s, Winamp had lost much of this audience. In 2013, AOL announced that Winamp would be shut down. For many fans, it felt like the end of an era. Thankfully, that wasn't quite the end. The software was acquired by Radionomy, which later became Llama Group. Development eventually resumed, and Winamp is still available today with a modern interface and a renewed focus on streaming, podcasts, internet radio, and managing music from different sources. It isn't the dominant player it once was, and the modern version feels very different from the classic Winamp many of us remember, but the project itself never truly disappeared. Looking back, I don't actually miss Winamp, which is not really true. I miss it, but I miss what kind of memories I had with Winamp. Modern music streaming is undeniably more convenient. I don't miss downloading MP3 files one by one. I don't miss waiting for songs to finish downloading. I don't miss organizing thousands of files into carefully named folders. What I really miss is how exciting music discovery felt back then. Winamp wasn't just a music player. It became the soundtrack to countless evenings with friends, late-night gaming sessions, house parties, homework, road trips, and so many unforgettable moments. Sometimes, software becomes much more than a tool. Sometimes it quietly becomes part of our lives. And for millions of us, Winamp did exactly that. So actually I enjoyed making this video and making the research for what was the history of Winamp and basically what was its life cycle, because for me, I'm really glad that I have this memory with Winamp, and it's quite interesting that I am nostalgic for a software, but it is basically, I'm not nostalgic for the software because we have many music players available today, but I'm nostalgic for what I felt, what my memories are. And actually I made a whole video about this topic, that we are not missing the 90s and the 2000s and technology. We are missing basically what we experienced there. So if you enjoyed this time travel back, check out this video as well, because this is going to be a very interesting one. I hope that you enjoyed this little history about Winamp, and I'm going to see you in the next Backlog Quest video. Bye bye.